friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Now I know I just did a secondhand finds video that you would have seen just a couple of days ago at most. And in that video, one of the things I showed were these All-American canners. Now, I wanted to talk about them again because, and more specifically about these, because I learned a little bit about this since I looked at the book and did a little looking online. It's really kind of hard to find a lot of information of the history of these canners, but I found enough to kind of at least get a better idea, not just how to use these things, because it is different than the newer models, just simply because of the petcock that's on here, and that's what this thing is called. I'll show a couple pictures of it right here, close up, so you can see what that looks like. So if you've never seen this, you don't have the older canner. Basically, it works a little bit differently than the newer canners that have the vent valve that you put the weight on top. So let me explain a little bit about, especially if you're new to canning and you'd like to learn a little bit and you're thinking about getting an All-American or buying a second-hand one, whatever it is that when you have an All-American canner, I'll show you a picture of my canner right here. It's a 30-quart canner. It's called the 930. It's the one where you can double stack. You can fit up to 14 quart jars in there, and up to 18 regular mouth pint jars or 14 wide mouth pint jars. And so what you have on there, instead of having a petcock like this, is it just has a straight up and down vent. As it's heating up, and that once you see steam start coming out of there, then you let it vent for at least 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes tops. And then once you've done that, you're going to drop your weight on there. And if you look closely, you can see the weight has 5, 10, and 15. Now that's going to depend on your elevation. If you have a higher elevation, you're going to go 15 pounds of pressure. Low elevation is 5 pounds of pressure. Where we're at, it's 10 pounds of pressure. So I put it so that it's on the hole that's marked with the 10, and I drop that onto that vent. So with the petcock, it's either open, letting the steam out this way, or it's closed. So once you vent this one, you close it. But then what that's going to mean is that you're going to have to constantly be watching your gauge, because the gauge is going to go up to see, I think this gauge needs replacement, but I'll talk about that in a bit. So when your gauge gets up to 10, that's where you want to keep it, and you keep adjusting your heat so that stays at 10 pounds of pressure. You don't want it to drop below that, and you certainly don't want it to get up over 15 pounds. If it gets up over 15, what's going to happen is a pressure release. It's a little button like this, a little rubber button, and that will just push out, and that'll basically is an emergency release, so it just lets all that steam, all the pressure out so that the thing doesn't blow up, which is going to be pretty difficult for it to do, because the way these are made, they're built like a tank. They're not like your kind with your standard just where you have to get the rubber gasket. Your All-American canner does not have a rubber gasket. It doesn't need one. And you use these things. This is actually the old tried and true way until they changed things and came out with the other models where you kind of slide it into place. Where these ones, you actually have these bolts all the way around it that you tighten down to a certain amount, and you want to make sure it's level. So anyway, the nice thing about having the vent tube with the weight on it is this is going to constantly keep it regulated, and you can hear it when you know it needs to be adjusted. So if it's constantly jiggling, constantly nonstop, that means you need to turn your heat down. So what you need to have it as is, so when it's in the process of canning, it needs to be where it's just going 2, 3, maybe 4 times within a minute, where it does that and it jiggles and then it stops, and then it jiggles and then it stops. If it's constantly doing this, then that just tells you need to go turn it down. But because it's constantly regulating that pressure, unlike your petcock, there's a lot less worry about it getting up over the 15 pounds. However, you still need to stay close, keep watching, and keep listening. But that's why I like this, is I can hear it. With the petcock, I'm not sure that I'd be able to hear it when it's closed, because this is closed. I don't know, I haven't tried it yet. I don't know that I'll be able to hear it when it's starting to get the pressure up too high. And I'm a very busy person. I've always got a whole bunch of different things going on, as most of you are who like to can. I think this one here is slightly used, but I think maybe it only got used once, if it was used at all. Now, whether or not the gauge got damaged just sitting in storage, people pulling it out and looking at it, but it does have darkening on the inside, which means it was used at least once. But I can't imagine it was used much more than that, because it's so shiny. And considering the age of these, I did figure out that they might be, they're no older than early 1990s, though I'm kind of surprised, because I was pretty sure they were using the weights on there by that time. So I was thinking these were 70s models. But the All-American Canner was actually established in 1930. And the company that actually does the aluminum part of it is Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry. And they were founded in 1909. But anyway, all American made, that's why it's called the All American. So anyway, what I wanted to say is that I did a little research and found that it's really easy, from the sounds of it, to replace this. All you have to do is buy the vent and then buy the weight. So let's say, like me, you found a great deal on the old canner, which I still didn't tell you how much I paid for both of these put together. 20 bucks for both of them, and we gave her extra money. She was only asking 15. So we just went ahead and gave her a $20 bill, because it was more than worth it. Because if you were to buy this size canner brand new, it would be $240. If you were to buy this one brand new, it would be $260. So right there, that's $500 worth of canner, right there. And this one is brand new, it was never used. And then this one was only slightly used. Price tag was actually still on this one. I didn't realize till after I shot that video. It was tied to the petcock. And I'll show you a picture of it right here. It was priced at only $99.90, which to me sounds closer to the price it would have probably been in the 70s. However, the book that came with it, these both came with the book, and it looks like this. It shows the prices in the back. And both of them are the dates for the prices are between 1993 and 1994. So it's got to be 90s, or I don't think that would be in there. But because there is a slight difference in the way you're going to do this, only very slight, they recommend getting the updated book. However, instead of going and buying an updated book, all you need to know is what I told you, is once you get up to the right pressure, you drop this on there and on the weight that's going to match your elevation level. So you might want to look that up. You can much easier keep track of where it's at with the weight. So I believe I'm going to do this with these, even though Kayla's probably going to take one of these. I'm thinking she's going to want the bigger one. This is the one I'm encouraging her to take. And so I'm either going to keep this one for myself, or I'm going to find somebody who's looking for a canner for a good price. So the plan is, I do want to, especially if I'm going to keep one for myself and give this one to Kayla, especially with her getting new into canning, or pressure canning, that is. She's not new to canning, she's new to pressure canning. I would like her to have the one with the weight that goes to it. So I just think it's a little safer and it's a little easier to keep track of. And so my plan is to get the new vents and get the new weights and install those on there, and then probably get a new pressure gauge for this one. I should have it tested, but just looking at it, it's clearly off, and so I think it would be safer just to go ahead and get a new pressure gauge to put on there. And then what I plan on doing once I get those parts and pieces is shooting a video on showing you how to do that, so that if you come across an old one, don't worry about this. I have a link I'll put down below of a place I found for pretty good prices, definitely cheaper than Amazon, even once you add in the shipping and all that, so you can get replacement parts, and that includes just about anything. And I will put that down below so you can check that out. So it may be a while yet before I get around to getting the parts and pieces I need for this, but once I do, I will definitely be shooting a video on that so you can see how I do that. And it might be something you want to know in case you do find a used canner and you don't really like this idea. Don't be afraid of it. But as long as you know, you can just keep track of it and always be checking your gauge, then, you know, just stick with that. People did it for a long time. That's what they depended on. They didn't always use the weights on there. Oh, and then one more thing I want to add, since I did talk a little bit about, you know, how to use a pressure canner, is, you know, you want to make sure that once you get into pressure canning that you read through your book that came with your canner, whichever canner it is. Read through the whole book first. Make sure you understand all of the rules, how to use it, everything you need to do, such as one thing you need to make sure you do is that, so this is different, but you want to check and make sure there's no blockages in where the vent is. So like on my pressure canner, I should be able to hold it up to the light and see. In fact, with this open like this, I can see light all the way through that hole. So it's open, you want to be able to see light through there, but especially on the other vent. And if it looks blocked at all, just take a pipe cleaner and clean it out. Also with the All-American canner, especially when you first start using it, you want to put a very light coat of Vaseline or coconut oil around here, something a little bit on the heavier side than just regular oil. And that is to make it so that when you go to take this off, it's not going to stick. Remember, you don't have a rubber gasket like you do on some of the other canners that are out there. And when you go to remove it after you're done canning, you want to lift it this way. Never ever lift it this way, because that steam is very hot coming out of there and you can burn your face. But I know I'm not saying everything in order. I'm just throwing a few pointers out there for you guys who are new to this, especially to using the American canner. Just a few things that you want to know. There's a lot more involved in that. So once you get such as like when you're using your weight, once you put the weight on there, and this gets up to, your gauge gets up to the required pressure that you want. So for me, 10 pounds, that's when you start your timer. So let's say I've got quart jars of green beans in here, or hamburger meat, or anything like that. Then I'm going to start my timer once it gets up to 10 pounds of pressure, and for 90 minutes. If I'm doing pint jars, it's 75 minutes for those kinds of things. There's just a few tips, a few ideas. If you're interested in more videos like that about canning, I keep saying I wasn't going to make my channel about canning, but for those who really would like to see more of what I do, the things I can and how I can, just let me know in comments down below, and I'll go ahead and do more videos on that. And be watching down the road for when I get these pieces. I got to do a little bit more research first, but I'm pretty sure I'll be buying them at that place that I link to down below. Hopefully you can find a canner, especially an All-American, for a good price like I did here. Just be patient and keep looking. It can happen. So I did my old one, my big one, I actually paid full price for, because at the time I didn't think to really start looking secondhand. I figured I'd never be able to find something like that. I'm still glad that I did it, however, because you know the All-American canner is worth every bit of the price. And I'll go ahead and put the Amazon link to my canner down below if you want to check it out. But if you're wanting to really save your shekels, don't give up hope and keep looking, because same garage sale, 2 canners, one never been used, one slightly used, $20 for both of them. You just can't beat a deal like that. And you may not be able to find that great of a deal, but I would think you should be able to find a pretty good deal. I've seen them on eBay, some that are used, and you know, even used ones are in great shape. Most of the time they're, you know, because these things are so well built that they're probably worth whatever price you're going to pay on there for a used one. But also check, like I've said before, don't forget to check your Facebook market and Craigslist, places like that, and keep watching for local garage, yard, rummage sales, anything like that, because a lot of times, like in this situation, estate sale, somebody passed away, and the family's just trying to move the stuff, and those are usually the best places to find stuff like that, is estate sales, because a lot of the family doesn't want it. They just want to get rid of it. They're going to sell it for a good price. And again, even if it's a well-used All-American canner, it's going to be a good choice either way. So keep watching and keep holding on to hope that that's going to happen, because it can and it will if you're patient enough. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.